award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I got another great show lined up for you today. Mr. Don King helping co-host.
Yes, you bet, Jason. Hey, you want to do the radio shout-out while we're
we're
on it here? WMOD in Bolivar, Tennessee. We're on the Wildcast Extras run at about 8:15 every morning, Monday through Friday on WMOD. And we appreciate them as well as our other radio partners.
Radio is important to us. We love it. We love it. We're from Bristol to Memphis. So
exactly. Yep.
You can find us out there.
Tip. Yep.
If you can't find us there, then tune us in on the podcast app, your favorite. You'll find us on just about every one of them. You can even say, "Hey Alexa, play Tennessee Wildcast podcast." It'll pop up. I've tested it.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, go find us, go watch us, go listen, and you might see this guy, Jason Holland.
Yeah.
Could be. I am glad to be back.
Hey, glad you're here.
Yeah, we had a good time last time. Hopefully, everybody learned some stuff. I know I do every time I come on here and have conversations. I say that jokingly, but really, there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that most people don't know. And of course, I'm very blessed to get to come in here and do this and get to talk with you guys. And it's an overall encouragement. I know I talked about it last show about what just the TWRA does as an agency for the state, but even more importantly, what it does at the more macro level, looking at all the different lakes, the different things that we participate in, from not just biology, because everybody thinks TWRA think they biology, which is a big part of what we do with CWD and then the invasive species and all the different stuff, which is really cool. But there's so much more that goes on instead of in conjunction with all that piece happening, and so that's really, really cool to see.
You mentioned some of the big ones, but when people think of the agency, they think of our law enforcement. We write tickets for hunting over bait or shooting a deer out of season or catching the wrong fish, too many fish, whatever it may be. But we're more than that.
Yeah.
We're those biologists, like you said, and the technicians on the ground planting and making things better on our WMAs and just, all that stuff. So it's extremely important of all the different pieces that go to it. Now, I didn't even go to the law enforcement piece because what I've learned over the years of being like, if you don't do things wrong, you really don't have to worry about, law enforcement or, agency enforcement. But to do the right thing, you ain't got to worry about it. But it is cool to see all the different things that we're doing. Of course, I know being a fisherman and being on that side of it, the Build Dance Signature Lakes, that whole project is really, really cool. Coming off the Bassmaster Classic with the full booth there. It was really great to see. And it's so cool that we're able to tap into someone like Bill Dance, who is a living legend, who is so intricately involved with the sport of fishing. He's synonymous across the world.
Right.
And of course, that Power T orange hat gives us a lot of pride. But
that helps, doesn't it?
It makes me, every time I see it, a little bit happier. But it's cool to see what the agency is doing and tapping into that. Because, again, having someone like Bill Dance involved with everything he is across the world, but being here, born and bred here in Tennessee and be able to maximize all the influence that he has, I love the fact that we're doing it, and we're not doing it in his honor. When he's passed and gone, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Which is really cool and taking full advantage of what time we have left with him. And I mean, what a great ambassador of the sport! What a great ambassador of the state of Tennessee. And it's just really cool to see what we're doing from there. And then with what that foundation or what that group is doing to come in and make the improvements to the state park lakes, to the family fishing, all the stuff that's doing from habitat, from access, all of those pieces. It's cool as I get to enjoy. My family gets to enjoy. Hopefully my grandkids, and it goes on, and that legacy that he has left, or he is going to leave for all of us. But the fact that Tennessee is taking it and trying to make it happen, getting him involved and getting his input, we're blessed. We truly, truly are blessed. And there's so many states that would love to have that type of opportunity. We're just blessed that we raised the greatest fisherman maybe of all time.
Exactly.
Bill Dance. Hey,
you're speaking of recognizable icons, Dolly Parton, Elvis Presley, and Bill Dance. They're right there together. Seriously, they've done polls and done research to find that Bill is right up there.
Yeah. Sainthood. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's close to sainthood, but it is really cool to see what all that is happening and what all it's. More importantly, that legacy that is being built for someone that deserves it, and for again all the influence that he's put into the overall sport of bass fishing or fishing in general.
Yes,
I say bass fishing is just the vertical that I live in, but just fishing as a whole, and get people out there. It's we're very blessed that he's been able to be involved with it. Really cool to see.
Well, go to BillDanceSignatureLakes.com and check that out. There's a lot of information there about the work that's being done. Like Jason said, some of the lakes and stuff are getting more improvements, just access type improvements, but then our fishing lakes are getting more habitat, and some of the state lakes like Fall Creek Falls, they're getting some feeder. They got some feeder things they're trying to work in, and habitat they're working in. So all across the board, a lot is happening, and you'll find that in the fishing guide as well. That first couple of pages, all the what's news, kind of highlighting the regulations and some of the changes that are happening on our state lakes and family fishing lakes, et cetera, et cetera. So,
can I make one more shameless plug while we're doing this?
Sure.
So this is something that's, again, being in that fishing vertical that we're very near and dear to all of our hearts, is about, guys, transporting fish. And I know that most people think it doesn't even register, but it happens a lot. And so we have to be very careful as fishermen that we are not taking specific species from one lake, from one state to another, and moving them around and changing up the overall environment. We've seen that happen. Of course, again, I live here in Nashville, so on Kentucky Lake, Barkley Lake quite a bit. We saw what the whole invasive species have done there. And those lakes are on the rebound. TWRA and a lot of groups have put a lot of time, effort, resources, funds into
tagging, research.
Getting that back into just overall where it was before and dealing with the problem. And I always want to come in and bang the drum of make sure that fishermen are not making that problem even worse or adding to that problem of moving fish. There's very specific reasons why fish are where they're at, the way they're managed, the way that they are. And when we take it upon ourselves to think that we know better than the trained biologist, that we want to move fish, from here to there, moving around, and not just the predatory fish such as bass and those type of things, but moving just the forage fish around, moving invasive species of grass around, and so. I like to get on my soapbox a lot, and I get a lot of mixed comments about it, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why the fish are where they're at. Yeah. There's a reason why they're managed the way that they're managed, and ultimately, we do not have the overall knowledge to be "quote unquote" biologists and taking fish from this lake to that lake, from this creek to that creek, this river to that river. Because all it takes is one small spark and turn around and completely decimate a great, fantastic fishery because some of us decided that we think we know what we're doing. So I'm very candid about that, and I'm okay with that because, again, we need to leave it to the scientists. Whether we agree, disagree, it doesn't matter. It's not our position, our job to get in and start moving around because we can make a wrong decision, be a catalyst that can absolutely destroy an overall fisheries, and we spend a lot of time, effort, money, and we love them, and we protect them. That's why we keep them clean. That's why we do all the things that we do to protect these fisheries because we love them, and then we go out and we move fish around. And so just don't do it.
Our guys put a lot of information, a lot of research into these fish and the reasons why. Right. It's not just a willy-nilly decision to put a fish here or there. So, it's very important. Don't move them.
Don't move them. Just
enjoy.
Yes, go fish. Leave it. I'm a firm believer in making it better from when I was there to when I left. Just pick up a cup, pick up some trash, pick up some line. I'm not asking you to go out there and take, your entire church group and clean up a bank, which would be great if you decided to want to do that, and nobody would say no to go clean up trash. But if every person will do a small piece, it makes that whole big problem a whole lot easier. It's that whole elephant, how you eat an elephant a bite at a time kind of thing. And so make sure if you see a trash, put it in your pocket. Don't leave trash, but more importantly, don't leave it. Pick up somebody else's that didn't have the courtesy to do it.
Yeah.
Keep everything clean. I love it when of course, I'm in this business, so I have a lot of people come from other states that come and fish, and I am so proud to take them on our waterways. Mm-hmm. And then you go down certain areas, and man, it just looks like someone took out bags of trash, and it becomes different. You feel different. You act different when it becomes your own. When you take ownership of it. I promise you, the next time you go fishing and you take ownership of it, and when you look and see, it's going to bother you, and you're going to want to turn around and go pick it up. It becomes yours, and the more that it becomes part of who you are, the more you're going to want to take care of it. The more I want to leave it for my kids and my grandkids, and that's how this whole progress works. So just don't move fish, clean up after yourself, and pick up someone else's trash. It's not hard.
Like our friends at the Outdoor Stewards Conservation, they say fill a bag while you fill your tag. So while you're out there fishing, while you're hunting, fill a bag, take it back out with you, throw it away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look, some marketing genius over there stole my idea. I haven't even voiced my idea yet. Somebody got in my head, but
hey, we're going to tag them in the description. So go check them out.
Yeah, check them out. But it is important. Just be a good person. Don't be a jerk. Just pick up your trash. Pick up someone else's trash. It's not hard to be a good human.
Yeah,
just try.
Yep. Clean, drain, dry too. Clean, drain, dry.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. All kinds of good marketing pieces here.
Well, you guys are welcome. I don't know if anybody knows, they're paying me to do all this. It's strictly a paid advertising gig disguised as a fishing show.
Yeah, your check's in the mail.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm kidding.
Keep checking that. Keep checking that.
Keep checking that mailbox. No, we really appreciate you being here and appreciate the good words you share. I mean, it's exactly what the message we're trying to get out. And, sometimes folks don't want to listen to our guys, so it's helpful when you help us out a little bit. And it's all true. It's not being made up here. It's
not hard.
Good stuff.
Just be good people.
The BFS.
Yes.
Something new. I haven't heard that acronym. It's the Bait Finesse System.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about BFS, and BFS has been around for a while over in Japan. So basically, Bait Finesse System, that's the acronym for the technique, such as a drop shot or fishing a shaky head. That Bait Finesse System, though it is a very long word, it gets broken down to BFS, which is what you typically hear. It's just a way to fish finesse-type actions, finesse-type lures, but you can do it with a casting rod. So, I'll give you some insight.
Okay.
Grew up in the South. And everything we did was pretty much power fishing. And it was all bait casters, heavy baits, heavy line, full contact bass fishing, which is great. Bass are going to do that. But more times than not, bass they're not going to be in a position where you can power fish them and get as many bites. And so finesse fishing, all that means is you just downsize everything. You downsize rod, reel, line, your baits, your weight. Everything just gets smaller, more compact, and it gives them a not as aggressive approach, which is typically the way that they like to feed. All right, you think of a bass who's eating, and diving into a ball of shad. I mean, it's very natural. It's not a big aggressive. And think about when they're eating a crawdad on a crawfish, whatever you want to call them. It's not a big. It's there. He goes down, sucks it in, eats it. So, what bass fishing has done over the years is say, hey, we want to catch more fish, so we're going to have different spectrums. All right, big, huge baits, big, loud, noisy buzz baits, clocking everywhere, and then you go all the way down to a very small 3 or 4 inch worm that's just sitting there doing nothing. All right, and you got everything in between. Bait Finesse System came from Japan. It's a system where instead of having to use a spinning rod, you can use a casting rod. So going back to what I say, I grew up in the South, everything's bait casting. You'd have 20 bait casting rod and reel setups, and you'd have one spinning rod.
Yeah.
And that one spinning rod would be in the box just to make you feel better. Like at some point in time, if you needed it,
just in case.
But you never break it out.
You're taking a novice like me. No.
Yeah. If you take somebody's going to blow up all your reels, you give it the spinning rod. And it's
I could use a bait caster.
Yeah. It was, but it's strictly, it wound up just being in there. And so what's happened is, guys know that they need to be throwing this finesse baits. They need to be throwing smaller line, smaller baits. And so what it's done is allow guys, especially like myself, that don't like necessarily throwing a spinning rod, I now can turn around and I can throw a 16th ounce jig head, like a crappie style jig head on a bait casting rod. There's a lot of science behind it. How do you can throw it on your normal setup now, you just won't get any distance because everything is just too beefed up. But you still have to have enough backbone to actually set the hook, right? So there's a lot of in between, got to figure out. So, of course, you guys know I work for Cashin, and Cashin came out back in July of last year at ICAST and really started gaining traction, and now it's becoming one of our bigger sellers, is that we have a 6 foot 10 inch rod that is a medium light and a bait casting rod, which is unheard of. We also, which I have with me here, is a 7-foot long light action bait casting rod, which is pretty much unheard of. And again, this goes all the way from, you can throw a 1/16 all the way up to a 5/16 size bait in a bait casting rod.
Oh, wow.
Which allows you to throw the drop shot, allows you to throw a shaky head, it allows you to throw really small crankbaits, allows you to throw really small spinner baits, yet you still can get the casting distance, which is super important.
That's
because
exciting.
Yeah, if you can run out and throw a little 1/8 ounce jig, but it goes 12 feet. Well, I mean, you do it, good job, but you're not going to catch anything.
Put some more weight on there.
Yeah, so it allows you to be able to fish those type of techniques and do it in a bait casting scenario. So here's what's really cool with it. We thought when we released it, hey, this is going to be great. Basically, south of the Mason-Dixon line, guys like me that grew up not throwing a spinning rod, they're going to get it, and we were right. I mean, it has absolutely exploded. But what's been really unique is that we didn't think we'd sell anything in the Midwest. We didn't think we'd sell anything. I say anything, very few, because conversely, you go up north, you go to Michigan, you go in that area, they're 90% spinning, 10% bait casting, right? They throw spinning rods and spinning reels, and they throw light baits. They're fishing for a lot of smallmouth on the Great Lakes, and so they've been using light line and small baits forever. And so we did not think we'd have nearly the adoption rate up there, because why? They don't need it. It just doesn't resonate with them. Where we've been extremely surprised is how much that they actually like it. They throw. And it's not everybody. I don't want to paint with that big of a brush, but we had a lot of feedback we have is from that group is that, hey, we were throwing spinning rods because it's the only option that we had. We'd rather throw a bait casting rod. It's more comfortable. You get longer cat, all the different things. And again, everybody has their own theory behind it, so I'm not here to argue either way. But at the end of the day, we're getting a ton of adoption rate up in those areas that are heavy spinning rods because they want to throw a bait casting rod.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, it's different. Right, it's the same thing they've been doing. I've been throwing this bait on this rod and reel for 25 years. My granddad taught me, and they want to try something different. And so BFS, or Bait Finesse Systems, continues to grow Midwest, Southeast, Northeast, and quite honestly, it's huge out in California. And what happened is it's not really started around the bass fishing world, at least here domestically, but it continues to grow. Crappie fishermen, trout fishermen.
On a bait caster.
On a bait caster. Anybody throwing one of those small baits, they can throw it on a bait caster. And we're seeing a lot of individuals across all different type of species pick it up. The crappie fishermen are absolutely loving it. What we found with the crappie fishermen is live scope, right? So live active sonar on the front of their boat, and they're actually seeing the fish. Garmin came out with it. Now everybody kind of has a active target, live target, a lot of different names for it, but it's forward-facing sonar. And what's happened with crappie fishermen is before they'd set out these big spider rigs and they just, they drop on or they troll, right? And what's happened with forward-facing sonar is they actually can see the crappie, vertically. They can see the crappie in some laydowns, and what's happening is they're now actually seeing them and they're casting to them, which has completely changed the game. So now, before they just needed a bunch of cheaper rods because you're just trolling them, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Now they need rods that will cast. They need rods that are extremely sensitive. They need all the benefits of a more higher quality rod, and so Bait Finesse has completely flipped. Forward-facing sonar was really the catalyst on the crappie side, but Bait Finesse Systems are now coming in where they're making casts with it, and they like throwing a bait casting setup. Now, the rod is very important, right? It starts with the rod, but you can't just get the rod and go out and think you're going to be successful using the same old, reel that you use for 20 years.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah,
it's got to be a totally different reel in this case, right?
It's a totally different reel,
or at least a different setup.
It has different componentry, right? Because if you've got and I'll get into it here in a second, but you think of a normal size reel, a normal size spool on a reel holds a lot of line. Well, it takes a lot and tremendous amount of let's just say torque or overall momentum to get that reel, because you have so much weight of the line on the spool. So what you have to do is you have to get a very shallow spool, right? So now you're reducing weight and you're reducing drag
that makes sense.
of all that line, right? So you're getting smaller. You have a very small, shallow spool, so it doesn't take as much momentum to spin the spool.
Pull it,
Yeah, so you can get a further cast. That's been one of the biggest benefits of using a spinning reel, right? Because the line is just naturally coming off instead of having to spin a spool like a bait caster. So
makes sense.
Now what's been really cool is the reel manufacturers have now caught up. And they're making reels. Daiwa's got one. I'm a huge Daiwa fan. I'm not sponsored by them. I get nothing, just so everybody knows. I just like what they do. I like Lew's. Lew's has a very good reel for a very economical price. Lew's does a really good job. Shimano has come out with one, and Cast King. A lot of different companies are now making BFS reels, and it's designed for that real small bait, but to have a shallower spool. So you're going to have a reel set up for it to be successful, ultimately successful. Now, can you go out and make it work? Sure. So a great example. Lew's, this is a pitch and flip reel. It is designed to strictly for not as much line. You're just going to flip it. You're going to pitch it. But it makes a great BFS reel because it has an extremely shallow spool. So for guys that may not want to go in and make a full-on investment, take what you got, see if you got something with a shallow spool on it, and make it work. Is it perfect? No. But will it get you by to start seeing if you like it before you turn around and want to spend more money and get a dedicated setup? Yeah, absolutely. So look for something with a shallow spool. That Lew's is a great one. Cast King makes a very price point BFS reel. So for guys that want to turn around and start seeing if they like it, I use it like the Harbor Freight tools mentality. It's my own version. It makes sense in my head. When I say it, Todd, it makes it sound completely stupid. But in my head, it makes a lot of sense. So if there's like a tool that I think, hey, I would like to have this, what I'll do is I'll go buy a very inexpensive one at Harbor Freight and then actually see how much I use it. If I use it, several times, I'm like, okay, I will turn around and make the investment in a DeWalt or Black, whatever. Pick whatever, whatever, Milwaukee, whatever brand that you like of a higher end tool. But I'll start with the cheaper one from Harbor Freight to see. And what I found is all these tools that I thought I had to have, I didn't have to have. I thought I had to have this big torque wrench. And so I went and bought one. I was going to spend hundreds of dollars, and I used it like twice in 5 years. I'm like, well, I'm glad I did not go spend hundreds of dollars for that because I never really needed it. So I use the same analogy when it comes to fishing. Get your basics, right? You get your stuff and always say afford what you can afford. Don't be stupid and go out and buy stuff on a credit card and buy the quality that you can afford. Stay within your budget. And then from there, just use what you can to ultimately say, hey, is this something that I'm going to use, and not get sucked into the fad of, hey, this is the hot thing, so everybody go out and buy it, and then it just sits in the corner. I am guilty of it. I can say this because I am that guy. I've got all kinds of baits and lures and stuff that I've never even touched that I just hopped on the train and went out and bought it. Don't do that. Be smarter than me. Buy what you can afford and then see if you can't make it work with what you got. So BFS, you got two options. And I'll talk about cash inside, but it basically goes across. So you're going to have a rod that's going to be designed for a single hook application. All right, so you're going to have like a shaky head, like a drop shot that has just a single hook. You want a little bit more power, right, to make sure you drive that it's a real thin wire hook, but make sure you get that home. And then you're going to have Cashin's version is a 7-foot light, which is going to have a ton of parabolic bend, going to be super, quote unquote, light, hence the name, but it's going to be designed for stuff with a treble hook. So stuff with a real small thin wire hook that you need all that bend, parabolic bend, aka that rubber band action, so that the rod is fighting the fish and you're not pulling hooks out of its mouth. So as you get into it, you're going to need kind of both setups to really be successful. But if you're going to start with one, start with the medium light. That's what you're going to throw most of the time. Your drop shots, your shaky heads, your Nico rigs, that kind of single hook, weightless, wacky rig. That's really where you're going to get in there. So I know we're going to be short on time. So I'm going to fly through these things real fast. A couple things that I like. Missile makes a micro jig.
Nice.
It's got a football head, a normal head. It's great for BFS. I also use this is the Quiver 4.5. It's a little small Ned rig bait. All right. It's great for that as well. On your small swim baits, Dirty Jigs makes a great jig head.
Dirty Jigs.
Dirty Jigs. This is actually a 1/8 but it has a 1/0 hook on it, right? So you're not getting a real small lightweight when a real small hook, because you need a little bit bigger, longer shank hook for a swim bait.
I like that.
Yeah, and so I got a tons of different stuff. Strike King makes a real small, micro mini spinner bait.
I love those on a spinning reel, but that's awesome to see I could throw it on this.
Yeah, absolutely can throw it on. Now you can throw it on a bait caster. So you got Rapala makes,
and I love these on a little spinning reel too. Man, this is exciting.
Yeah, and so you got your
Exactly.
your basic original Rapala floating minnow. And this is obviously the downsized version, but now you can throw that on a bait caster. And the list goes on and on. You got small crankbaits, you got small square bill crankbaits. You just anything that you want to normally throw. I tell you what, I catch a lot of bass on a crappie jig. Go bass fishing with a crappie jig. I know. I know. Yeah. But it's amazing how many bass you'll catch because they're so used to seeing these big lures and they get conditioned. So instead of going really big, now I go really small on them. And I still can do that on a bait casting. And I can get really the accurate casting. I am horrible. I am embarrassing with a spinning rod. I do not mind openly admitting I am horrible with one. But now I get the overall castability of a bait caster. I get the precision casting of a bait caster. But now I'm doing on these ultra finesse baits. Absolutely fantastic. So check it out. It's in our Icon line on the Cashin side of things. Lifetime warranty, of course. Everybody knows Cashin. We're 100% American made. And it works really, really well for Bait Finesse Systems. There is a whole universe out there if you want to dig into it. But this is, again, very high level. But Bait Finesse Systems, it's here. It's going to be part of the staple moving forward. And it's a great way to catch them.
Well, I've learned a lot today because I didn't know the lighter less line on the spool is even I don't think about as having to pull it off, where on a spinning reel it's just falling off pretty much. This has been great. Would you use this on a creek? Could you wade fish?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Dude,
you know me, I like to wade fish.
Hey, I go down to South Harpeth. Man, when it's warm, not right now, you freeze to death, but when it's warm, it's a great wading bait. And again, I'm still getting all the benefits of a bait caster, and I'm throwing those small lures. And you can catch panfish, you can catch, like I said, trout, you can catch smallmouth, everything in between.
I like the idea of being able to sneak up on them with a longer cast, as opposed to having to be right there next to them when you're flipping the spinning reel.
There's a ton of options that come with it. It's new, I get it. Like I said, man, just make sure you buy within your budget, and do the old Harbor Freight tool mentality and grow into it. So I don't want to miss an opportunity to always talk about faith, your family, your fishing. Keep those three your top priority and keep them in that order, and everything will go just a little bit easier for you. So thanks, everybody, for having me. Of course, Todd behind there making me look good. Always enjoy being on the show and look forward to the next time you guys have me on here, if you do.
Yeah, we're going to have you back, that's for sure. As we're getting into hot fishing season, we'll have to have you back with some more tips. I've learned a lot today on this one. This is great. Let's go fishing. What do you say?
1,000%.
Let's go. Don, thank you for helping co-host. Thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you next time on Tennessee Wildcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee Wildcast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.